Welcome to episode 3 of What's New in Visual Media. I'm Alfredo D'Ambrosi, and today we're talking about personalization in visual media, when it brings delight to customers and when it just creeps them out. I'm joined today by Gunther Hartwig, who is head of product at Imagix. He has 2 decades of experience shaping software products and user experiences across startups and global platforms. He worked at YouTube from 2007 to 2011, and there he helped pioneer personalization and content discovery. And so these are insights he now brings to Imagix, where he's driving the next evolution of media delivery. Gunther, welcome.
Hey, Alfredo, it's nice to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, definitely. So personalization. Gunther, I recently had the experience of looking online for a TV stand, and I was there on the webpage just a minute or two, and closed out that browser, and that TV stand ended up following me all over the internet. Kept seeing it in ads, and it's something that I've gotten used to. It's something that many of us have gotten used to because that's just life now online. We know that there are ads that are personalized for us. And eventually I even bought that TV stand. And so it worked for the company that was bringing those ads to me. And so that's helpful personalization. Gunther, do you have, how do you feel about this kind of personalization in an ad experience?
Oh, well, it's an interesting one, right? Because we all spend a lot of time going online to look around and find products that, right, might be of interest or do some discovery about them to learn more about the possibilities that are out there, right? And so there's something nice about, the idea that it can somehow, what's being delivered to me can sort of adjust to my behaviors and interests, right? So there's a certain utility in the notion of like, oh yeah, I'm looking for something, and when I look across, say, different areas, that information might come with me. However, right, that might not meet necessarily my expectation of how my engagement with this particular organization or entity would be, right? So there's part of that. Like it's a little bit of question here. It's like this personalization notion is one thing. It can be helpful. But in that particular case, it's also like, say, the persistent salesman who follows you around somewhere, right? And sure, they made the sale at the end, right? But the question comes back oftentimes to like a person's preference, like how do I want to actually have these things exposed to me and so on. I think just going on that, one of the things we're seeing, as we were talking about some of this earlier, by the way, a few ideas came to mind. One that just struck me right here too is many people remember the movie Minority Report. Right? There was some speculation in that about how these things might evolve over time, right? And I don't remember when the protagonist is like moving through the city, all of the surrounding contexts, right, change sort of to be about him, right? There's ads, they're specifically about him and that sort of thing. And so there's a notion of, right, I think that we've had oftentimes thinking about the future, like what is the full extent of this sort of stuff? What is useful and what not? I think in the case with Minority Report, there was meant to be a little bit critical, right? This might be a little bit much, right? But I do think that you've also had some stats on this. It shows that people actually rather like this sort of stuff. So when the survey responses say actually a certain amount, right, actually do love it. I mean, significantly high percentages. Yeah, there we go, right? You got that. So 72% like and engage with personalized content. However, a larger percent, and I'm sure there's overlap there, worry about the data, the usage, right? So this is definitely one of our ongoing debates, right, within the whole space, within interactive technologies and so forth. Of like, yeah, what's that line, right? To your point, between useful and creepy.
Yeah. And data really is that secret ingredient there for personalized content. Well, you can get that personalized content, but it's going to take data to make that happen. And so then we're left with navigating this line between relevant content, personalized content that creates a delightful experience, but then on the other hand, something that just becomes creepy. We've kind of been living in the creepiness of ads that follow us for some time, or other kinds of personalized content. but this can be driven even more by AI.
Sure.
The AI can, with so much data, it can create even more personalized experiences. And that might be a good thing for those who want personalized content. It could end up increasing the creepiness factor as
Right.
well.
Yeah, but you touch on something, and a lot of this is about context, right? What's the context in which this is useful to me? What's the context in which, or what I'm trying to do, right? The environment I'm in, or my relationship with this whatever organization or entity it might be, right? A few things thinking about here with this is like, yeah. So in the case of like say advertising or e-commerce, what level of what personalization goes on with here. There's one thing when I'm say looking at a variety of vendors, for example. Another might be when there's a specific vendor that I'm looking at, right? You made comment yourself about how fun it is when Starbucks sends you a free coffee on your birthday or whatever, or there you go, right? So that's great, right? But you've established a relationship with that organization and given them, a specific piece of information, conceivably of your own volition, right? Another one might be though, think about clothing brands or something that you really like, and it's like I sign on, it knows a little bit about my size or whatever, my past ordering, and like can make suggestions in that way. I mean, that's helpful, right? And it's a little bit of information that why would I not expect them to know I have size 13 feet? I ordered from them. That doesn't feel like a violation. There's like, yeah, show me the ones that are in that. I have big feet, by the way, everybody out there.
Okay.
So that is helpful. And I know we're talking a little bit about visual media in the context here, right? But there's a lot of these ways it really does stretch beyond that of what personalization means, right? And so there's an example of like specifically in commerce. We can expand this notion of personalization, of course, through a lot of different interactions we have, right? With digital content, with interactive media, with the internet and communications, right? I would say something like commerce and shopping is one thing, but what about other areas? Like as an example, say fitness apps or health apps, right? Those are very popular amongst people. We like to sort of track what's going on, learn about ourselves in that sort of way. And so I provide a lot of what could be seen as personal information to those to modify the media that I'm consuming back. But there's also definitely a give and take there, right? It's like that's something that I get utility out of. But then hopefully I'm also able to share the extent to which that's either leveraged by the organization or shared with others, right? I'm a Strava user in that case to talk about it. I don't know if you use some of those things, but yeah, I love the fact that it'll record these things for me, show different types of outcomes from my activities, right? But there's also like, how far out there do I actually people to see this? And a lot of that's also there's a bit of a personal opinion, personal feelings that how people much they want to share, right? And that can vary. So.
Yeah, and I guess the idea of having personalization to create a delightful experience. Sometimes there's an attempt at personalization, but it misses. So, for example, I took a friend to the eye doctor, and after leaving that doctor's office, I was getting ads for eye drops.
Right.
And I was getting ads for other eye doctors. And it's something I care about my friend. Also, this is not for me, but like there was a lot of, I was getting a lot of ads about this. And, or to give another example, I was watching The Simpsons, and why I enjoy watching The Simpsons. While I'm watching it, I'm getting ads for Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I don't especially care to watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And the fact that, I'm watching one cartoon doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be interested in cartoons now. So often there's this irrelevant personalization, or if I accidentally, or if I have an interest in, wait, what is this weird hobby? People extreme ironing, like going on the mountaintop with an ironing board and an iron so you can get your picture ironing in like extreme locations. It's an actual thing. I think there's a Wikipedia article about it.
Oh, wow.
or cheese rolling or whatever unusual hobby, and you're like, oh, what's this? And you click on it, but then you're like, wait, no, I don't want to start getting all kinds of ads about this either. It's like, So I often end up making use of the incognito tab so that
Right.
there's less chance that uh, that there's the expectation that I'll be interested in this in the future. So there's a lot of irrelevant personalization, and it takes me to what does it take to create a delightful experience? And I think what's going on here is that
Mm.
we need both an understanding of how much trust there is, and how much of a level of personalization is there. You know, if you don't attempt personalization, then you end up with something that's either generic and forgettable, as in that bottom left quadrant, or it's safe but bland in that upper left quadrant where there might be more trust but still not much personalization. If you have a lot more personalization but not much trust, it can create this creepy surveillance. But when you get it just right, you know, it might be that birthday offer. People tend to like a free snack on their birthday or free drink on their birthday. That creates a delightful experience. And
Mhm.
so that's what we're aiming for. And I should mention, you know, here we are, Imagix, and we're talking about this because
Yeah.
we care about personalization. Um, on one level, there's personalization that's happening when we are delivering images to the right device, or having our customers using Imagix to deliver their images with the right size
Mhm.
for the right device, or accounting for varying levels of bandwidth. And we're looking at other ways of getting personalization, increasing the chance for personalizing images for customers as well.
Mhm. Oh, there's a couple of interesting points you raise on here. One, of course, yes, from our standpoint as a company that works in optimization and delivery of media, right, we want to make a great experience for everybody, that they get high quality materials wherever they are and whatever context they are, right? So yeah, and that touches on the varying levels of like what personalization might be on that, right? And how close or far away they are from you, or, you know, personal private, you know, information, what have you, right? Being able to say, oh, this type of device in this location, right? Yeah, that does say something about you as a person. You made the choices, right? So yeah, and then that's how we're gonna get you the right stuff, right? But I think back to also that matrix you're showing there, a lot of it does have to do with the sort of the nature by which this information is solicited, or by the way in which the trust is built, right? If you're, you know, if it's a direct relationship with, again, in this case, we're talking about a company or an organization, right? And there's been a process by which I have provided that information to them that I am aware of. That's one of the ways in which you build trust, right? You might start, hey, I don't know anything about you, but I'd like to learn something about you. Please provide the information. This information, we can help make your experience better, right? That's all very above board. It's all very explicit, and that's one of the ways to build trust with any, you know, in any relationship, no matter what, virtual or not, right? But the other one, of course, is like, it's that line of inference, right? So that what makes it creepy, of course, is when things are happening based on behaviors we might have not known that anybody observed, right? And of course, that does happen on the internet, and you can be aware of that, right? But sometimes you think, oh wait, this disappears into the ether. I mean, again, you know, that's right. When you travel around to the website, that's what cookies do. Cookies say, oh, you came here, you did these sort of things, and cookies, right, are exchanged. They're stored in the browser. People can, you know, different organizations look at them depending on the network they're type of in. And so that's also one of the reasons why now there's regulations, right? Particularly in places like European Union, that sort of thing. Have strong ones about that, where you have to acknowledge, right, and say, okay, I accept that you guys are going to be looking at these sort of behaviors. But those still, there's a reason why it's there, because people don't know exactly what's being noted and cataloged, right? And sometimes, again, this goes back to the inference, right? Sometimes without even thinking about it, you get delivered that delightful experience you're talking about, right? Without knowing that you've chosen to do it,
Hmm.
right? But then there's a very fine line between when it goes there, where like, that's great for me, and to where it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And I
so
do think that's a struggle for across the industry, right? I don't say I have the solutions to that, right? It's definitely something that many people grapple with.
so you're thinking, for example, the birthday offer, like, oh, I forgot I even gave them my date of birth, that kind of thing.
Could be that, or it could be the notion of like when you're talking about earlier about, yeah, well, what if you knew you gave your birthday to somebody, but you're sensitive about your birthday, and so Starbucks has got it. But then what if it all of a sudden shows up over at Pete's? Now, maybe that's not a big deal, right? But maybe it's also you start getting, say, ads for medications that are based on, your age, right? I mean, and that's one of those things, right? You reach certain ages and certain things become more relevant to you, your considerations about health and stuff. But is that information that people necessarily want to just be out there? Often not.
Right.
So that's where we cross a little bit of the line there, where someone, and it often, that's also very personal. Sometimes you don't care. Hey, I don't care if people, know what my age is, but other people do. Right. And so that leads to some other deeper things too, when we talk about now with personalization, right? And the benefits or disadvantages to these new intelligent systems we have, the AI things that can actually, they aren't simple. They can make potential inferences much deeper about who you are, right? And that could have some great benefits. Wow, this really hit me. This really knows who I am. Or whoa, that really hit me. It really knows who I am. And that, right, just you can hear just from my tone that your reaction can vary.
Yeah, I do think that the experience of shopping on Amazon, we've kind of been conditioned into even expecting a personalized experience. Here's these recommendations based on past behavior or things that you've looked at. And so we get that kind of experience on Netflix as well, maybe YouTube,
Absolutely.
where we have those recommendations that seem to be just right.
But a lot of that does have to do with, like, I know that what it's taking is stuff that's been my direct interactions with them. Obviously, Amazon knows the stuff I buy, right? The thing is, I would say in some of those cases, it goes back to like when you spread this across multiple people. But of course, we have an Amazon account that the entire family shops on, right? So, so how does it segment in there? Right, about who wants what or what have you, right? It's like mine's full of camera equipment, my wife's is full of books, so on and so forth. And so yeah, they kind of overlap, but it doesn't always necessarily dig down and say, oh, by the way, there are two of you doing this, right? But it caters to what the information that it has.
In your experience at YouTube, did you have activity that was meant toward driving personalization?
Oh, but of course. And this is back, we're talking about 15 years ago at this point, the very early days of this sort of stuff. But some of the things we're working on was, it was, somewhat naive in the way we're thinking about it, but just like, how do we make fun content appear to you? Right. And that would, of course, be based on your behavior, on who you're sharing, who your friends are and that sort of stuff. Yeah, here's a good one. Blast from the past, everybody. Right there. Right. This is what YouTube homepage looked like in 2010, I think that is. Right. But the very beginnings of it, where we put, recommended videos for you based on past behavior, what you were watching, with the hope that you would, find something that you liked. But a lot of these were, again, very, very simple compared to the sophisticated ways that people do it now. And this was, of course, all isolated within the platform at the time. But hey, YouTube has become what it has at this point, right? So it's way, way, way beyond these very simple beginnings.
Right. This has been great. And I'll point out that we do have a blog post on this topic on our website, imagix.com/blog, post about navigating this line between relevance and surveillance. There we offer some tips for some principles for navigating that tension, 5 visual personalization principles, if you will. So check that out. I'll include a link to that in the comment section for this video here in a bit after we conclude. I want to mention also that, before we wrap up, Gunther, thank you so much. And I'm wondering if you have any concluding thoughts here on this topic.
No, it's a pleasure to be here. It's certainly something that's of great interest to us as we think about how we can provide the best services for our users and then their users beyond them. So, of course, anything that happens in the space is something that we're always very interested in learning about and, again, sharing our knowledge. So it's been great to be able to have this conversation with you, Alfredo.
Thank you so much. As we wrap up here, I'll point out that a week from today, our next episode, we're going to be looking at the topic of bias bias within AI and AI images in particular, visual experiences that are created by AI. What to do about this? Having good representation when dealing with AI. So that's next week. And then in a couple of weeks, on September 18th, we're going to be joined by Dr. Ryan Abbott, who is going to be talking about building trust in AI-driven imagery. This is a webinar. Again, I'll include a link for you to register for this. And during this webinar, Dr. Abbott will be talking about legal and ethical challenges in AI image creation, along with privacy conscious, transparent workflows, and how responsible AI can strengthen brand reputation. So we'll look forward to seeing you there at that webinar. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.